Dr. Paul, we are so delighted that you're with us tonight. When Sarah and I got the water, we would have given anything to have had a retired dentist like you with huge medical experience come on and share the clinical studies, the medical research that has been done. So thank you so much for your time and for this fabulous webinar tonight. Dr. Paul in Arizona, thank you so much.
Hey, thank you. This is really exciting. Yeah, I did practice dentistry for about 18 years, and you know, it's really funny because I know we have our little chit chats, and I know there's several people who are in here going, "Hey, when's this webinar starting?" It's starting, folks. This is what we do. We kind of chit chat and keep it casual enough that hopefully you'll just take in what we have. This is not a high pressure. It's not a serious, you know, intense kind of thing. But we do hope you'll take notes tonight because we're going to talk about some of the things that I've learned in my years since I retired, which was almost 6 years ago. And I'm always a study guy. I've always been a study guy, and let's check things out. And so that's what we're going to be talking to, about tonight when we talk about this thing that I call the line that can change your life and the lives of those you love. It's about a line in the history of our company, Enagic. And so I wanted to find out a little bit about the audience that's here tonight. And so I thought, let's see who's here. Now, I put out a poll there before we start. And this is not personal. I have no idea who clicks what. The software simply will add up the total. So I'm going to ask you who are attending if you will just click all that apply to you right there, and we'll get a little bit of a poll going here just to see who's in the audience. This is nothing more than like raising your hands, only I can't see individual hands here. So we got a little bit of going on. So thank you very much. I always like to wait till we get at least 3/4 of the people voted, and we're almost there. You guys are really great tonight. So this is good. All right. You did very, very well. Let's close that. I'll show you the results. Let's see. Man, we have almost a full score tonight. Okay, it looks like, let's stop it right there, and we'll share the results with you. And you can see there's a couple of new people in here tonight. 2/3 of you have seen this before. 3/4 of you drink Kangen water every day, and 15% either short time or not regularly, and a few healthcare professionals. So that's great. Thank you for giving us that kind of sample of our audience. And let's go on and talk about this line that can change your life. And I got thinking, what would we stand in line for? It's something we value. Sometimes it's fun things like an amusement park, or you know, the latest food that we like and everybody's into, or maybe it's the latest technology, standing in line for the new iPhone or something like that. And other times it's things that aren't so pleasant, but we obviously value them. In the Great Depression, they stood in line like this for just subsistence, and in the Great Recession, we put it inside and threw some chairs around for some lucky people who had to wait for hours. But there are other people who actually will do things proactively. I had the unpleasant experience of having to stand in line for hospital outside in the heat in a major hospital in Mesa, Arizona. And it wasn't because she wasn't sick. It was my friend I was with. She died 8 days later. But the crowd was so big. The demand was so high. And as things get that way, there are some people who do things proactively. So there are people who actually will pay money, get on a plane, make a trip, go stand in line at that grotto in Lourdes, France. Why? Because the rumor is they have healing water there. If you drink that water, you tend to get better. Well, guess what? It's not the only one in the world that people go to. They stand in line in Mexico. They stand in line in Germany. And what's really cool to a guy like me is that the researchers will go find out what's going on over there. Because us nosy people believe that questions are the answer, and if you want a better answer, you just have to ask a better question. So we're constantly thinking, well, why this? What about that? And so these researchers started looking at these things several years ago, several decades ago, and they started trying to figure out, why do these places have reputation of magic water, miracle water, healing water? And it was because what they found when they started researching was that the one thing in common with all the springs around the world was active hydrogen in the water, and today we call it alkaline water. I went, that doesn't make sense. The more hydrogen, the more acidic something is. And then I found out there was something a little bit more to it. I started finding out something that I never even learned in medical school. I started finding out the chemical splitting of water. And I went, wow, I didn't realize it could fraction so many different ways. So I'm not going to get into that technicality tonight, but I'm going to show you one. Because I looked at these different countries' research, and I found that there was something amazing that the Japanese had done. And so I want to put up this little disclaimer that we're not going to talk about anything to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease tonight. We're going to show you what I found and make it in a way that hopefully it will be relevant to you, right? Because the question that these guys and ladies asked, was, can we duplicate what Mother Nature gave us? Can we make this hydrogen water? And they found they could. They started with magnets trying to split it because water is polar and it will split that way. The Russians did that. And then they found that they could do it especially with electricity. And by controlling how they applied the electricity and what materials it flowed over, they could literally split the water molecule. And this was what I didn't understand. Active hydrogen happened when they literally split a hydrogen off of there and the electrons from the electricity followed it. And now you have two fractions that have really incredible uses. So it wouldn't work on mineralless dead water like reverse osmosis and distilled water. That kind of water is for machines. That's good for machines and really bad for us, both of those. But they found they could do it with tap water once they filtered all the gunk out. You know, tap water's got a lot of junk in it these days, but if you filter that junk out and leave the minerals and the micronutrients in, you can split that and do exactly and in more control than what Mother Nature gave us. I thought that was fascinating. So tonight, we're going to talk about some of the things I found in looking at this that's relevant to you. This is clinical stuff, what people felt, what happened to their blood work, what happened that could be measured and seen and felt. And so I want to throw one more poll out here real quickly. Again, this is just a general info thing. Click all that apply to you. I should have put self on here too, but yourself, your parent or child, your spouse or sibling, something that's directly related to you, not your cousin, not your, best friend. Tell us what affects you and your family. And you guys are a great voting audience tonight. I love this. The percentage of voters gets up there really quickly. And just so you know, boy, is it leading the way tonight. Blood pressure has always been number one except for one night when we've done this, and allergies was a close second. And it's like we've got a little different mix of an audience tonight because allergies is actually coming in fourth right now. Kind of interesting. So change of the mix. Okay, there we go. We look like we have plenty of voters. Thank you for being so responsive. I like that. And here's what the audience looks like tonight. Blood pressure still number one by a significant lead. There's something about controlling our blood pressure. Mostly it's high blood pressure, but some people have, hypo. They have low blood pressure. And, look, 2/3 diabetes, 2/3 heart disease. Well, here's what you're going to like. So thank you for sharing that information. And here's what you're going to like, because the first thing I've got to present is called Clinical Improvements Obtained from the Intake of Reduced Water. It was a presentation given 21 years ago, so it's not even new. The research was started in 1985 by these cardiologists, Dr. Hayashi and Kawamura. And they gave this water, this reduced water, that's in one of the research names for this hydrogen and electron water, and they gave it to them to drink, and they're inpatients, they cooked with it. And here's their report. They said that, let's see, tonight we have 69% of our audience who say they're affected directly in their families by diabetes. And they found that it lowered blood sugar levels. It helped their diabetic patients just by giving them this water to drink, and some of them to cook with. It was only their inpatients they could cook for. Isn't that amazing? And 69% of you are affected by the very first slide. I hate to tell you the next gross part of that, but the severe diabetics who are about to have amputations, things like that, and I've showed you, these are really mild pictures, I hate to tell you, but they found that they could even improve the peripheral circulation for those who had diabetic gangrene, which usually leads to amputation. And they found that instead of having to amputate, if they did it all, it was maybe a toe or two rather than a whole foot or half a foot. And I was like, I'll take that improvement. So see, we've affected 69% of you listening tonight very much like this. And just in a couple of slides. This one else they found, decline in uric acid levels. For people who you know that have gout, we didn't ask that in the survey, but gout is a disease where uric acid builds up, if you see where my mouse is rolling, as solidification. It's crystals that form around the joints of the body, usually the big toe, but it can happen in the hands and anywhere. And they could lower uric acid levels with this water, and the crystals would dissolve back out. Problem solved. Wasn't that interesting? If you know somebody who has that, you actually have a chance to help them by letting them know this information, because they may be taking a lot of drugs that will have side effects that may help reduce uric acid, but why not do something? We're going to find out how safe this water is. That's a big issue for me. Improvements in liver function exams they reported for people with liver problems. How about improvements in stomach ulcers and stopping them becoming bleeding ulcers, which can be life-threatening? Wow. You can do that. Here's our big one. 85% of you tonight said that you have somebody directly in your family who suffers with hyper or hypotension. And they found it didn't matter which way you were wrong from normal, that you would go more toward normal with this water. Isn't that cool? Because it changes the biochemistry of what's going on in your body. Same thing with allergies. Look, it doesn't matter what kind of allergy you had, and there are several different skin ones, irritating runny nose to life-threatening asthma. You could have an improvement and a change toward it is what they reported. Isn't that cool? And so how about they had some people who had to have gastrectomies or stomach removal, and they would get persistent diarrhea typically, and they found that if they gave them more water, they would have less diarrhea. They also found that people who had to have their abdomens operated on, normally it'll cause paralysis of the intestines, and intestines are supposed to move, so they'd move faster after the surgery. And this is what I really got into. You could change the whole next generations, plural, because if the mothers drank this water, because it was perfectly safe, their babies would come out better birth weight, less jaundice. That yellow symptom where the bilirubin levels, the liver's all messed up, and they come out with yellow skin and yellow eyes, and they have to recover. They're born and they have to recover from an illness. And so they could change the next generation, and it was perfectly safe for the mom. And they had better birth weights, like I said, and the moms didn't have morning sickness. I thought, wow, is that a benefit or what? And you on this call have the opportunity to change somebody's life and to help them just by giving them this information. Now, we asked you to take good notes, but just remember, you don't have to remember all this medical stuff. Just bring them along, and we'll share the medical information with them. So I said, what other things have been studied about this water? And so I'm going to put up some titles of research papers that I found. And hey, screen capture this next slide, and you can go look these up yourself if you really want to read them. I highlighted the parts of the titles that matter to us. Hydrogen water prevents atherosclerosis. That's heart disease. That one affected 62% of you tonight. How about electrolyzed reduced water? That's another name for this stuff in the research. Reduce the damage caused to red blood cells for our poor kidney patient friends who have to undergo hemodialysis every few days, every other day typically at the most. How about molecular hydrogen prevented the degranulation of mast cells? I read this and I went, oh, that explains the allergy thing. The granules of mast cells are histamine. We take antihistamines to stop an overblown allergic response, and so you could take the water and it wouldn't have this overblown release of granules of histamine in the first place, so you don't have such a big allergic response. Wow, that's cool. And, 46% tonight are affected by allergies. That's the lowest I've ever seen of an audience that has allergies directly in the family. So you guys are pretty good with the allergy thing. Hydrogen restores learning and memory deficits. Molecular hydrogen protective against Parkinson's disease. It's biologically safe. No mutation of genes, no toxicity to genes, and no toxicity to the mouth where we take this water in. You see, and all the names that they call it, hydrogen-enriched electrolyzed water. This changes water. It changes the molecular structure and therefore helps all these things in your body. It's still water. How about they found a fraction that they could kill bacteria with? split your tap water and make something that'll kill faster than bleach. Isn't that cool? It's not the same water. It's the opposite. Remember, they split it. And so I thought, wow, we can make multiple benefits out of just our tap water. Pretty cool. So in my research, I learned about Otto Warburg. He figures out the metabolism of cancer cells, wins a Nobel Prize for it, wins a second one in the 40s, but Hitler wouldn't let him go. He's a German researcher. And it's still relevant today. And so what he said matters to us now. This is cancer, folks, and this is affecting only 23% of our audience tonight. Congratulations. You know, that we're not talking to a high cancer affected audience tonight. That's great. But here's what he said. He said the main cause of cancer is the replacement of the respiration of oxygen in normal body cells by the fermentation of your blood sugar, your blood glucose. If you don't understand what it means there's a biochemical pathway to process your blood sugar and took a wrong fork in the road, and you got cancer instead. Here's what he found, that normal cells use glucose to produce energy. That's what we're supposed to have, to live and breathe and think and move, right? And it uses oxygen in an alkaline environment to make that ideal for normal cells. That's the most profound thing he said, in my opinion, because it tells us what we need to do to be healthy on a cellular level. And then he says cancer cells break down your blood glucose to do the opposite. Very little energy and lots of lactic acid. These are chemical tests, folks. They measure for these molecules, and they do the routine, and it's like amazing. We've known this stuff for almost a century. This is not new news. And yet somehow it missed us. We don't know this stuff now, and it's still relevant. Now, is he the only person who wrote about acid and alkaline? No. We're throwing a few books on your screen right now about people, doctors, who wrote about acid and versus alkaline. Look at that first quote. Removing acidic waste is more effective than diet and exercise for your overall health. It's true. If the chemistry of your body is not so effective, you tend to get diet and you tend to get sickness and aging faster and all those things. Look at that third book, Alkalize or Die. There's a way to get some attention. Name a book, Alkalize or Die. Well, as I read more and I read the pH Miracle, the bottom book there, I found that Dr. Young tried to do this with an alkaline diet. And it's really interesting. He said, you know what, in America we eat 80% acidic foods, and we should be eating the other way around, 80% alkaline foods. Have you ever tried that pH diet, that pH Miracle diet? It's really tough. And so it's interesting that he is now saying it's the water you intake that makes the big difference, because couldn't get everybody to go for that hard diet to live by. And so no matter what we eat, we produce acid as a byproduct. And the more acid we have, sickness and aging. But luckily we were created with an offset mechanism. I love how we were created. We have these magnificent little alkaline minerals that keep us from going into acidosis. And we have them in abundance to offset all the acid we produce in the act of living. But guess what? Unfortunately, it wasn't made to stay with us forever. As we get in our older years, this research came out of San Francisco. Those things decline until we literally get acidic and die. And so that book, Alkalize or Die, had new meaning, not just a catchy way to sell a book. So I looked at life and death. Who lives the longest? 1995, the Japanese lived longer than any nation on earth. U.S. males, number 25. We're kind of an indulgent country. We kind of eat whatever we feel like, and we have anything we want, almost. But we can't keep doing that. So I thought, well, we spend a lot of money. There's a little bit more preventive thinking going on. And so 15 years later, Japan's still holding steady at number 1, and we've dropped to number 38. What kind of a trend is that? That's a horrible one. So we haven't quite got there with the prevention idea, because what we do instead of having health care is sick care. No matter what we do, we spend all this money, we're less healthy than we used to be, and our kids and grandkids are projected to die at earlier ages than we are now. That stinks. So we've got to do some thinking and maybe do something a little different. So I asked the question again, what would you stand in line for? What do you value? Water? If it was this water? Well, guess what? A few weeks ago, I was down in California at the Enagic headquarters, where you can see they actually have machines there. These are these water processors that can split the water molecule. And so they're drinking out of those hoses that you see on top of the machines, and then there's another hose that splits the other fraction, and it's basically running down the sink. But both of those fractions are useful. They give that away as a public service. I'm standing there waiting to fill up my little drink bottle just to get a drink, and I didn't want to cut the line, so I waited. Half an hour later, oh, good, the line's getting shorter. I may be able to get a drink here. Half an hour later, oh, now the line's longer. It never let up. It just doesn't do that. People value this. They value it. How did they come to value it? Well, it was because of Mr. Oshiro. He was a Sony dealer, Sony Walkmans, electronics, that kind of thing. And in the 80s, he saw a line around a hospital. People were valuing because they were standing there with their water jugs and bottles and things. And he saw that, and he asked a great question to get a good answer. Why are they doing that? He found out that they had a refrigerator-sized ionizer in there that cost a few $100,000, and they were first filtering the water, get all the junk out of the tap water, and they don't have near as much of a problem as we do over there for the junk in the tap water. But they were still doing that, filtering it and then splitting the water molecule, taking the two fractions and giving it to people to benefit them. Well, being an electronics guy, he knew that, in the 80s, they had taken mainframe computers from room size down to home size. And guess what? If you lower the cost of something and lower the size and make it personal, he reasoned people would buy it rather than stand in line. Then they could have all the water that they wanted, which was beneficial. Pretty good discovery for driving down the road and seeing that line. This is why I call it the line that can change your life, because that line changed all of ours. So he buys the company, and the rest is history in the making. And we're part of it. We're telling the story right now. That's all it is. So let's talk real briefly about this Kangen water. Why is this so unique? There's several properties of it depending how you split it. Remember, we can control the electricity and the materials that it flows past as it's flowing to us, and then it makes a real difference. But three of the properties are life-changing, okay? Here's the first one, antioxidant. We've all heard we're supposed to take antioxidants, right? We don't know why necessarily, but, eat your fruits and vegetables, drink your juices, and take your pills. And some even waters have antioxidant written on their label. They're usually not by the time they get to you, by the way, and I'm going to show you why. Antioxidants are nothing more than transfer of electrons. It gives us life. The reason we even exist and move and think and breathe and talk on the phone is because we have transfer of electrons going on all the time. And so in the act of living, we breathe oxygen. Remember, Dr. Warburg said that's what normal, healthy cells do. But oxygen travels in pairs, and when one jumps on one of our red blood cells to take the roller coaster ride through our body and keep us alive and healthy, the other one loses the shared electron, and it becomes what we know as what's known as a free radical. It's so electrically and chemically unstable, it has to have an electron. And so it'll steal one from whatever it's next to. Okay, now I'm stable, but now you're not. And the next one, and it's this badward, downward domino effect. That's what we call degenerative disease. It eats us. It eats the electron out of our cell walls. Well, we've got trillions of cells, right? We can give up a few. Yeah, that's the act of living, but why rush it? Why rush aging? Why rush degenerative diseases? So if we put an electron back in the equation, that's your antioxidant is an electron donor. Now we neutralize the free radicals. And since free radicals are constantly being formed, we constantly need antioxidants. Now you know the story. It's just an electron thing. You can measure electrons. They're negative charge. Take a little meter. We have meters for measuring everything. And guess what? You measure the things that we drink, and almost all of them have a positive charge. They are magnets for electrons. So when we put them into us, even if we get wet, we get hydrated, they take electrons from us. Is there something you can do? Green tea is a well-known antioxidant. How about cod liver oil? That one's even got a higher measurement, negative 200 millivolts. Okay? Most of the fruits and vegetables fall in the 50 to minus 100 range. And guess what? Way out there on the left, you can take your positively charged tap water and turn it into the most incredible antioxidant on the planet, because you split it and drink the fraction with the hydrogen and the electrons, right? Electron donation. That's antioxidant. That's cool. Guess what? I'm going to show you a little video right now. Give me half a sec to switch over here. I'm playing director as well as presenter here. Give me half a sec. And I'm just going to show you a real quick clip from this video by our friend Bob Gradelli. You can see it at kangendemo.com. And I'm just showing the end of it, and I've edited it really short so you'll understand. He's measuring a water called Alive, 400-ish millivolts. Now he's got Gatorade near 400 millivolts positive, Sprite almost 400 millivolts, right? Even tap water. Your tap water, 320-ish. And now he measures his Kangen water that was that same tap water, but now it's split. Look at that, negative 420-ish. Isn't that amazing? That's the same tap water that he just measured that was over 300 positive millivolts, just like that. And I said, you can now take this and have all the water you want at your own tap. Mr. Oshiro's plan was brilliant, because that, in my opinion, is the biggest factor of this water. A lot of people call it alkaline water. Guess what? You can make alkaline water really simple. Put baking soda in your water. It's now alkaline, but it doesn't have these other properties. Let's talk about alkaline and acid for a minute. Okay? Research has shown that we should drink water that's alkaline. 8 to 9.5 was the range that seemed to give all the greatest benefits. And so we can do that. We can make alkaline, but also antioxidant water at the same time. So that's great for our insides. Guess what? When you split that water, instead of running it down the drain, you can actually collect it and wash your face and hair and skin with it, because our skin is acidic. It loves acidic water on the outside of us. Isn't that cool? How can you tell if something's acidic or alkaline? Well, you can use these little drops I just popped up there. And again, our friend Bob did that with all these waters, and you can compare them to a color chart, because yellow and orange are acidic, green's neutral, blue and purple is alkaline. And guess what? There's the Kangen water. If you look at Dasani and Aquafina, look at their color. They're acidic. They're great for the outside of your body. Wash with them if you can afford it. Great. So here's what else. He found out that when you take our bulky water, where it's all attracted to each other, you can actually change it, right? If you ever accidentally overfilled a glass just a little bit and formed a dome, well, gravity still works. It should flow over the edge, but instead these water molecules love each other so much that they hang together. But if you run it through one of these processor machines, like you just saw at California, where they had a few of them on the counter there, you now change the attraction of water molecules to each other, reduce them. And the research calls this microclustering. Why is that relevant? Well, because nuclear magnetic resonance shows that it'll get into your body, into your cells, 600% faster than normal water. Isn't that cool? So you can take your tap water and split it and make it get into your cells and hydrate you faster? You sure can. And because it will get across membranes that much faster, it takes your byproducts, your waste products, acids, out of you. And it's like having the garbage man come to your neighborhood every hour rather than once a week. Really clean, right? So Kangen water that's microclustered is a powerful solvent and transporter, and it means transporting the junk out of you. Talk about detox. And that's what happened. Is there a little test we can do to show that that happens? Yeah, there is. I'm going to show you another little video here. Give me a sec to set it up. And I want to show you this because it's a little test with tea bags. Anybody ever tried to make tea with tap water? Well, that's what he's going to do at room temperature. Here's what he's doing. He's pouring tap water over a bag of green tea. And now he's going to take another bag of green tea and put it in a cup, and he's going to grab the Kangen water right next to it. And he pours it over that. And if you count this thing out, it's about 9 seconds. I never stopwatched it, but it's about 9 seconds. And guess what he got? Tea. And then he's going, okay, well, it's used up, right? Well, no, it's not. Same tea bag will make another cup of tea in less than 9 seconds. And it'll make a third. And if you watch the video, if you go back and watch that video, you'll be amazed what happens there. So it's a really big deal. You may not think so, but it shows that this water gets in past the cell walls into the plant and brings out the chemicals that are tea in seconds, right before your eyes. This water doesn't even have to go through the tubes of your body. Normally you swallow it down your esophagus, into your stomach, into your intestine, then it transverses into your blood, and then from your blood it goes to your brain. Nah, it doesn't even, this goes through barriers so fast, it doesn't need to rely on the tubes of your body. You simply get this stuff rushing to your brain and measured in seconds, not even minutes, just like you saw there. See, this is relevant. You can hydrate your body and clear the junk out like that. And so some people can actually feel a change in minutes. Okay? Some people don't feel a change at all. Remember we said that the diabetics got their blood sugar measured lower, blood pressure measured lower. You may not necessarily feel a change or not. It doesn't mean it's not working. And so this is why you pick which way works for you and how you want to help families that you know. You can now tell them this info. Is there clinical evidence? Sure, there's a lot of it. How about Dr. Shinya, the guy who helped develop the colonoscope with Olympus and then developed the technique still called the Shinya technique for removing polyps and cancers in your intestines without having to cut your abdomen open? He used the scope. Well, 90 days later, I sat and watched him for about an hour and a half, show these before and after slides, and they were all about 90 days. And guess what? Look at the difference. I think we can tell without being doctors which one's the better one to have. And he absolutely insists on his diet. And it's not a real magical diet. It's like eat a lot of brown rice, fruits and vegetables, a little bit of meat and fish, and no dairy. That's his diet, and at least 3 quarts a day of Kangen water. Well, what does he say about the results? It's considered the very best drinking water because of its incomparable powers of hydration, detoxification, and antioxidation. Okay? Water in really fast, junk out really fast, and tons of electrons, more than you can get in any food or juice or nut or anything you can have. Isn't that amazing? And it's your tap water split, yours, in your house, if you choose to act on this info. That's up to you. But here's one of the machines. Here's an SD501. This one happens to have the platinum skin. They come in different things for different settings. They even have one that goes under the counter if you don't want something on top of your counter. So you have it your way, you know. But let's talk about 2 other waters real quickly here. One is the 11.5 that it can create really strong alkaline water, and one is the 2.5 on the bottom. We make them at the same time. Remember, we're splitting water. So here's something cool that Bob Gridelli's going to show us, and you might think, well, this is just, when you see it, you might go, wow, I could win a lot of party bets with this little trick. And I'll show you why. We all know that water and oil don't mix, right? And so that's what you bet people. Say, I can show you that water and oil don't mix. And they'll go, big deal. And then you take bets on if you can bend that little thing that we all think is so. So here's our friend Bob again, and he's pouring food oil. This is sesame seed oil, cooking oil, into some cups, and he's going to prove you right. Water and oil don't mix. There's the tap water, and you'll see that there's a little sludge that will form on the top like the Gulf of Mexico last summer, and water and oil don't mix like we all know in our hearts. And then he's going to win the bet. He's going to pour this water, which is 11.5 pH water, and it blends like crazy, just like there's detergent in there. I don't know if you saw it quick enough, so let's go back and show you why that's, whoops, I clicked the wrong application you're going to see here. There we go. And so there you've got a thing. And you go, why is that relevant? Well, guess what? Our fruits and vegetables have oil-based junk, chemicals, pesticides, all these things on them to kill things. Okay, they're not in high enough dose to kill us usually. They'll kill the bugs that we're trying to stop growing on them. But why would you want to feed those chemicals to your family if you didn't have to? So what he's going to do, I'm going to show you the video here, and I'm showing you a little bit of before and after. Sorry, give me half a second to get this video up here for you. And sorry, hard when you're doing the controls and the presenting. Okay, so here he is, and he's got that same 11.5 we just saw that did mix with oil and take it, and now he's taking the tomatoes out, and you can see. And what I want you to watch is the waters. Tap water still looks clear. Why? It didn't remove the junk that was on them. This water is full of junk. Those are the chemicals. And then he gives these to his audience. And this is what I want you to see. Because this is the ones with the pesticides removed. You just wash them with water that you split out of your tap. And now he gives them the other ones, how we normally wash our fruits and vegetables, with water, tap water, and watch the reactions. This is pretty funny. It cracked me up. I love to laugh, So I want you to watch. There's 3 ladies who appear on camera. One we missed just a second. But the lady in black, she's very expressive, giving him the look of death, spits it out. But look at the lady just coming back on camera. She's going, no, this tastes bad too. That's how we've always eaten our food. I'm going, come on, this is how you've always done it. And by comparison, you saw there was a big change. Okay? So this is what happens for your family if you wash with Kangen water 11.5. You get to keep the pesticides washed down the drain, and this is what happens if you wash with tap water. You get to feed them those chemicals, okay? And you might get looks like that if they knew better. And So that's an advantage of this water. What about its other water? You know what? There's another use for this one. Dirt is held in fabrics by oils. So you do the math. Clothes, carpets, anything that you want, you can actually not use detergent anymore. And you can just pour this water in instead of detergent. You don't have to fill the whole washing machine with it. I put about a quart in. I just made a couple more quarts of this yesterday or the day before for some laundry. 11.5, that's how it works. Great stuff. So what about its opposite? 2.5 water kills bacteria and bugs. Well, that mattered to me. I did a lot of surgery on people over the years when I was practicing. And this stuff is great in surgery, by the way. Anybody whoever I love this stuff when it comes to that. But and the reason, remember I said I was retired? I was, but I've had 2 surgeries on me. One of them was oral surgery. And you can't believe how it helped. So I know it's good because I was on the receiving end of that. This stuff isn't toxic to us and our animals. Well, how do we know? Research. Check them out. Compare waters that are really strongly acidic but really close. Compare them to bleach, benzalkonium chloride, and test all the nasty bugs we've all heard of. Hepatitis and TB and AIDS, HIV, MRSA, E. coli. And guess what? 99.999% kill for 2.5 water. 2.6, it's really close, killed most of them but not all. This is relevant because there's no other home-based water ionizer on the market that can do this, and they don't even advertise they can because they'd be lying. If you want this benefit, if you want to remove this stuff from your family's food and protect, great. Imagine you could spray the base of your toilet and your floor and things like that, and your dog or your grandbaby could come along and lick it or put something in their mouth that they shouldn't. There's no bugs like these because it killed them all, and there's no chemicals. Isn't that cool? So Enagix received a lot of awards because of this, both domestically in Japan and internationally, ISO certificates, even from a multinational body out of Switzerland for the manufacture of medical devices, because that's what they are, and that's what they do. And so they're even certified in the water industry by the oldest independent water certifier out there, the Water Quality Association. That means you can use these in restaurants. Wouldn't you love to go tell your favorite restaurant owner where you eat all the time, I want you to make my food with this water because I saw this doctor I saw online said he showed that it lowers diabetic blood levels, it helps with hyper or hypotension, blood pressure, and all these things from cooking with it and drinking it. So I want to drink it, and I want you to cook with it, and I know your restaurant's going to be clean because it makes all the 2.5 water you can. Now you can make sure none of those bugs are back there and no chemicals that are going to get in my food. Wow, we ought to start a little, grassroots thing. We ought to go tell all the restaurants that we love to eat at. So my favorite story is simply this. It's my little joke. We all listen to WII-FM radio. What's in it for me? So I love to bring on Thera and have her tell what's in it for her for a couple minutes. So Thera, would you do that? Tell us what happened to you when you listened to this radio station.
Do you know, as I was listening to tonight and I was watching these people stand in line in L.A. to get this wonderful water, and I remember when Doug and Tony brought it to Arizona and offered it to me. I had previously purchased a machine that made alkaline water because I knew the value of alkaline water, and I'd paid $2,800 for this machine. And I was drinking that water thinking, how come I'm not getting better? Because I'd been in and out of hospitals 29 times and had all kind of health problems. And so when Doug and Tony came here, she invited me to a meeting. I went. When I got there, I didn't really tell her. I did tell her I had a machine and that it was making alkaline water. And she said, bring some, we'll test it. And when I went to that meeting, then Doug had hooked up the machine and Tony gave me a 12-ounce glass of water. Well, this was quite an experience for me because for months I had been troubled with triple vision. Everything I saw was in triplicate, and I was nauseated all the time. And that first glass of water, I drank that, and literally I watched an exit sign that had been 3 when I looked at it the first time. I literally saw that just move right into focus. I couldn't believe it. I thought, wow, I daren't tell anybody what's happened because I thought I was seeing things, and I really was seeing things. But the water had worked, And as I was watching these people stand in line in California, think of how often they just keep coming back and standing in line to get two precious gallons of that water to take home, because that's all they can have. And I asked Tony, called her the next morning in the hotel at 6 o'clock, and I said, when are you taking that home? And she said, today. I said, please don't go till you leave me some water. They came out, hooked that processor up at my home, and left me 5 gallons of water. I asked her, what do I do to enroll? I didn't know what it cost. I didn't care. All I wanted to know is, I want that in my home. I will never be without that. And I ordered mine the next day. I didn't have the money to pay for it, but I found it. You know, where there's a will, there's a way. And if you want to take care of your health, and you want to be one of those people at 81 who can say, wow, I feel better than I did when I was 25, join the crowd. Get your processor. Get people on the call to Dr. Paul. Thanks, Dr. Paul, and thanks, Doug and Tony, for bringing that wonderful processor to me. Love you.
Thanks, Sarah. You know what? You said something in there that sparked something in me tonight. You said you had a processor that you had paid $2,800 for, and you were not getting results, right?
Not at all.
You didn't get results. When you changed to the right thing, it got results, okay?
Overnight, immediately.
Exactly. See, now, a lot of you, and me too, had I not known the research that we just presented tonight and showing how rapidly this water can go across barriers and cellular membranes, you know, that little T-test that we did just a minute ago, you would say, come on, you can't drink a glass of water and all of a sudden your vision gets better. Guess what? You can. The biochemistry of this is so fascinating. It gets to your brain in seconds, and it literally affects the biochemistry of nerve transmission, which is what vision is. I'm telling you that some people feel a change instantly. Some people don't feel a change at all. It has to come in a measurement, okay? So don't be thinking, I have to feel something or it doesn't work on me. You might think you're unique and exceptional. My biochemistry is different than the rest of y'all. It's not, okay? You drink this stuff long enough and in relevant doses, things will improve. That's what 40-something years of research shows. So it's up to you. If you want to go read it all, I'll let you know where I put some up on the screen there. But here's why it's relevant. When I was practicing dentistry, there are a ton of filling materials. And there's some I wouldn't put in my dog. And yet they look really good. Dentists will do it on you. And you don't know if it's a good material or not that they'll use. What I mean, the leak after a year and you get to wipe out your tooth and you thought you just had great dental work. The same with materials in surgery. So the stuff, it matters what it's made of, okay? So when I investigated this machine and I found out these guys are using this very high-end, 99+% of the elements that is what the water passes over, that made a really big difference to me because I've seen people who make the mistake of using lesser quality materials. Might have the same name, you know, we have titanium, we have platinum. But guess what? If the ratios aren't the same, it doesn't work. Okay? There's a material in dentistry that will bond to your bone. Okay? Your bone cells love it so much, they will attach to this filling material. It was discovered years ago, and less than 10% of all dentists know about it these days. And you should use that. You should always use that material. And there's about 10, 15 competitors out there that have what looks like on the surface to be the same proportions, and you don't get the same results. So it's about results, and that's what I heard in your story, Tara. So listen, we've talked a lot about this stuff tonight. I want to let you know that you can get one of these, and you can get it at a great value. It's not about cost, it's about value. If you drink tap water for 50 or bottled water for 15 years, it'll cost you $20,000 for that brand for a single person, and it'll cost you $96,000 if you like square bottles, and it will cost you about $1,000 a year if you have it delivered. And if you drink Kangen water, less than a third of one person drinking bottled water at Dasani. Isn't that amazing? And that includes the cost of the machine, the maintenance on it. Remember, we said we have to filter it. We have to, clean it like a car. It's a thing you have to take care of, but it's designed to last for decades. And there's the cost of that model, $3,980. A little bit more than your $2,800 that you said you got for a machine that gave you no results. But guess what? Over time, value, value, value. And so we're going to change things. If you came just to hear medical information, we're done. We've spent 3/4 of an hour talking about medical type things. But I want to switch gears. So if that's all you came for, thanks for coming. You can click out and go and think. But we hope you'll stay, because this is a reality. Diseases of the soul are more dangerous and numerous than those of the body. So if you really want to help people you love, let's help them. Let's talk about something else. And so we're going to talk about balance. This balance that is part of Eastern philosophy, Japanese philosophy. Mr. Oshiro set up a company and he said, you need to be whole, you need physical health. That's what the water provides. Research for decades shows that. How about financial health? Okay, maybe you're one of the lucky % or 2 or 3 out there that's independently wealthy, you inherited and all the rest. But most of us start, financially how we were born, kind of naked. We just make it as we go. But he says, I'll even help your financial health and your mental health, your spiritual, emotional health. He says, I'll pay you to refer people to me. When they buy stuff, I'll give you a referral commission. Holy moly, I thought, wow, you could make a business out of that if you're smart about it. And it doesn't sing to everybody, and I get that. Not everybody on this call wants to even think that way. So I want to make one more little poll out here, if you would. This one is only select one. Select the one that applies mostly to you. I want to kind of take a poll of the audience here. Who's an employee only, and that's opposed to self-employed only, which is the second one, and no employees, you're just working for yourself. Or the bottom one, which is, you're an employee and you have a side business. If you would vote, that would be great. That's your neighbor. I know we've talked a little bit here. And only once have I ever had a small business like I had, dental offices, where I had 10 or less employees. And I've never had anybody on these calls yet that owns a business that has more than 10 employees. Let's keep voting just a little bit. Again, I like to get a relevant sample here, so keep going, please. Vote them in. Just get on there and click away. Tell them what matters to you. Almost there. Okay, we've got a lot of self-employed people, and we've got a few that are both. We've got a few of you that are also an employee. And so this next little section is going to be directed for those of you who are employees only. And let's stop it there. And I'll show you what the mix is tonight. Really, only there's an employee, and there's somebody who runs less than 10 employees. A couple of you there, and some both. But it looks like most of you are self-employed, and that's it. It's what you do. So thank you for that information. And let's talk about this really briefly. I always try to say less, but I so badly want you to know this information. And let me tell you something. Remember that let me go back and show you this balance thing. Spiritual, emotional, mental health thing. Mr. Oshiro gave me all 3 of these because I took it. He designed it that way, but I took it. I have a cause here that I can promote. And it's more powerful than me doing fancy smiles on people. I loved how I help people chew and do those things, but this affects their lives. This affects their lives. And so I don't even have a financial interest in the majority of you on here. I'm giving you information free, for nothing, and you don't have a chance of paying me, and I'm not asking you to. That's the cause. That's the emotional benefit that I get out of this. So I want you to know what Mr. Oshiro did. He's got the same thing. He says, look, people will only understand if you're different, if you're really unique. So he gets his marketing plan patented. He's like, even how we do this is so unique and so different. It's the only direct sales marketing plan in the world as far as I know. And he just got it. It took him 10 years because it had to be reviewed by so many different independent people, internationally independent bodies. And so you can know that if you think, hey, I've seen these deals before, these word-of-mouth things, yeah, I've heard about them, you haven't seen anything until you've seen this. This is not like anything you've ever seen. Here's what he said. We're going to compare this really quickly to franchises because they have high success rates, okay? most small businesses fail. Franchises mostly succeed. Enagic businesses mostly succeed for the people who follow a proven system. Okay? Those who don't, okay, you're on your own. Hey, franchisees fail too if they don't follow a proven system. So we're going to give you just a little bit of an idea of why this would be relevant to you. I'm going to tell you right up front. This guy named Sandy Botkin that we're about to look at, and Donald Trump and the late Sam Walton all agreed on one thing, that if you want to start changing your wealth, the most important thing you do is lower your taxes to the lowest possible legal limit. That's your priority. That's your number one thing you go after when you want to have healthy finances. And so you read the quote here, as a small business owner, you have more tax breaks available to you than anyone else. Unfortunately, these tax breaks go unused because most small business owners don't know about them, and the IRS isn't telling. Here's the deal. Any home-based business, even part-time, that is not a hobby and is in pursuit of a profit can qualify for huge tax breaks. It's U.S. government law. Well, 14% of you on the call tonight said, yeah, I'm an employee and I'm self-employed. You fit this. Why should we listen to this guy? Well, he's got 2 degrees, but he was a legal specialist in the Office of Chief Counsel. He went around the country teaching IRS attorneys how to get more money out of us. He knows the IRS laws in and out. So when he says this, he matters. Every American taxpayer who works a full-time job and doesn't have a side business, thank goodness it's only 7% of you tonight, is probably overpaying taxes to the tune of $3,000 to $9,000 every year. Wow. Maybe you knew that and just chose on, no, I don't really want to have a business, and so I'll keep paying. Maybe you didn't know that, and we've educated you tonight. Let me show you something really, really quick. If you drive tax-deductible miles, I'm not a tax guy, by the way. I'm just self-employed a lot. If you drive tax-deductible miles this year, in the second half of the year, it's worth at least 55.5 cents per mile as tax deduction, and it adds up really fast. If you think about it, if you drove a non-business mile, it's like throwing $1.10 out the window every second mile. If you took a long trip with your kids, guess what? They might be thinking this because you just wasted $1,100 on a 2,000-mile trip. Okay? So lower your taxes big time. There's one place you can get some information. Here's the table of contents. And he said, why you would be brain dead not to start a home-based business if you don't already have one. Okay? If you don't have one, you're losing thousands each year. Okay? We're just giving this as info from the experts. We don't claim to be tax experts, but I love to quote people. Let me show you how he structured it. So if this is even piquing an interest for you, let me show you how Mr. Oshiro did this. He says, we're going to give you referral commissions, thank you checks. We know you work better in teams, so you pick who you want to work with and go work with them, and we'll pay you to build teams, and profit sharing. We'll even share profit of the company as it goes along, monthly and quarterly. Wow, that's a generous guy. And so he set it up like a real estate deal where you take one commission and you part it out. You give out proportionally the pieces of all the parties that were involved in the deal. Okay? That's what happens every time an Enagic processor sells. They just write out checks to all the people that are relevant in the proportions that they earn them. How's that for a fair deal? That's not the same as any other thing you've ever seen. That's why it's patented. And so he says, look, for your first 2 team members, I'll give you about 7% of the gross cost of the machine. And in that machine we talked about, the SD501, it's about $285. But he says, look, on the third one, I'll double your commission. When does that happen? You know, I flipped burgers for a living when I was 16 for a living. I was living on mom and dad. You know how that goes. But if my boss had said, flip 3 burgers and we'll double what we're paying you, I would have flipped 300. Okay? Not real in that world. It's totally real in this world. And if you look at that chart, the more team members you build up to this level of 101, your proportion of the commission goes up that high. And that's just the marketing dollars that's in every product you ever bought. Okay? I mean, they didn't have to jack up the prices to make that happen. They just didn't pay standard marketing routine. They paid us. So your initial investment is called buy the machine. No monthly fees, no annual fees, no startup fees, no anything. Just buy the product, and you become legally eligible to be self-employed and independent contractor as an Enagic distributor, if you choose. That's what's available. So how fast you profit is up to you. And listen, folks, I want to apologize to you right now because we are going to go over the hour. We try to keep these to an hour. I messed up tonight. I was so excited about what I was telling you that I told you way too much medical info. So please hang with us if this interests you, and we hope you get it, because I want to bring on Tony and have her tell about how fast you profit. So we're probably going to go 10, 15 minutes over. If you can stay with us, please do. Tony, tell us what happened to you, please.
Hey, Dr. Paul, thanks. We just absolutely could not believe that the water did all the things that our dear friend Eli Dafish was telling us that it did. And so I ignored him for 3 months. And then George Gossage came to Utah, and I was able to try the water. We listened to George, and we were blown away with what the water did for us. I mean, just overnight. It was exciting, and so we knew we had to tell people about it. Well, Brian and Marla Phillips tried the water, and they decided they wanted to get a processor, and so we worked with them. We just focused on helping them, and so they shared the water with Kit, and Kit shared it with Sherry, and Linda Trevort, and then Michelle Rayleigh out in Oklahoma. But our first little group that we worked with that first month, we shared it with, we were able to move 14 processors. Now, we did not have the money when we started. We were in a rough financial place, and so but we made a commitment to get the processor. We made a firm commitment, and then we thought of someone that we could maybe go to who would help us get the processor, and she said yes. It surprised me. So we had our processor the next day, and then Marla and Brian got their machine, and we worked with this group. Now, I was really nervous about having that money out there. I said, Doug, we've got to get this money paid back fast. I said, what do we have to do to get $4,000 paid back, with this company? And he crunched the numbers, came back and said, all we have to do is find 3 people that drink water. He said, do you think we can do that? And I said, yeah, probably. And he said, do you think each of them know 3 people that drink water? And I said, you bet. And so that's pretty much exactly what happened. We just helped Brian and Marla with 3 and their 3, and then Doug said that we would make $4,600. Holy smokes, I about fell over when he said that, because I wasn't used to making that much money with 3, just 3 sales, helping 3 people. And so, but that's exactly what happened. In fact, we did a little better than that. Our first month, we made $5,000. And then on the first year, we made a multiple 6-figure income. So, we helped, there were about 6 people in their first year that made over 6 figures. So it's been just pretty darned exciting, Dr. Paul. We've had so much fun, and we are having so much fun.
That is, a lot of people go, come on, how did you do that? Just like we all say, come on, water can't do all this stuff. And then you look at the facts and you go, whoa, it can. It can change Sarah's eyesight as she drinks water, and it crosses these membranes and fixes it. Can you make $4,600 in very short order of time? You're not the only one, by the way. I know you know Tony.
Oh, sure.
We had Kay Johnson on here a couple of weeks ago, and she said, no, it took her about 6 weeks. And we had Michelle Rayleigh on here last week, and she said, no, it took me about 6 weeks. Let me show you the hypothetical. People who are hanging with us, thank you. And here's what it was. Her husband, Tony's husband, Doug, said, if you know one person, there's 3 people. So here's the first who drink water, and they know 3 who drink water, who can be educated to understand how you can process your own tap water and make all these benefits. And there's the second person in the 3 they know. And remember, according to that chart, the third person doubles your commission. Guess what? It's a permanent raise. It applies to the 3 people that they know who drink water too. Isn't that amazing? You add it all up, and Doug had rounded up to 4,600. There's the actual number, 4,560. That's if they buy that Model SD501 we've been talking about. We've been using an example all night long of one particular processor model. And there are some. This one's a middle range one. There's a commercial one, and there's a travel one. Travel one's definitely not what you do for your day-to-day thing, and yet your commercial ones are built for restaurants and hairdressers and doctors and chiropractors and things like that. And so we're talking about this middle model machine, and you could do that. And it took you 4 weeks, and Kay and Ron 6 weeks, and Michelle 6 weeks. And so how fast you profit is up to you, totally. So if you like this idea, this is a rock-solid company. It's been in business going on for decades and so thriving that it moved its headquarters last year to Torrance, California for the sales department. But the manufacturing takes place right back in Japan, where it is recognized as a medical device manufacturer. That's the difference. Okay? So when you look around and you see things on the internet, you're not talking apples and apples when you compare any magic machine with anything you've seen out there. It's just not the same thing. You can get one of these and become a business owner if you'd like. Again, not always available. If you're just a consumer and you don't care what the materials of the machines are, hey, do whatever you feel is best. But you now have information, and it's up to you. And so I'm going to suggest that you listen to that radio station. What's in it for you? Guess what? An opportunity as well as just physical health. You can have financial health and the cause worth promoting if that sings to you. And it's an international business opportunity. It doesn't matter whether your friend who you know who buys one of these processors is in Italy or Canada or Mexico or Australia or Philippines. Doesn't matter. Mr. Oshiro will cut your check and give you your proportion of the thank you check. And they're writing a lot of checks right now. Tony, what do you know about that?
Well, over $1,000 an hour.
Over $1,000 an hour. Okay. Remember, I said this is a cause I really believe in. So I'm going to tell you, get with the person who invited you to this presentation. I have no financial interest or ability in most of you on the call tonight. And yet I still want to get this info out there because it means something to my heart. When I see people's life change in their physical health alone, I can't not tell people that alone. But guess what? They started sending me checks. So I thought, wow, let's make a business out of this. So that's what I wanted to tell you. Now, we're inviting you. Change your water, change your life. But get with the person who invited you. That's who you talk about if you're interested in making a team or if you're just interested in, oh, boy, I need that for my physical health, whatever it is for you. So we're inviting you to do these things. Now, where you can get info, if you still need info, you can go watch that video at kangendemo.com. If you like what we're doing and want to be on our kind of news list, our email list, you can go to ideamastermind.com and we'll just send you out the stuff that we do. We try not to overload people. We're only sending, 3 to 5 emails a week over various topics. So we're not going to overload you. And kangenlibrary.com is another tool that we created for everyone's benefit. Do we have to? No. Is it free to everybody for almost everything that's on there? Yeah, it is. We just did it because it really matters to us, this cause. Now, Tony, I want you to talk about this quote from Goethe because it affected your life. It changed your life when you were in that bad place and you had to figure out something. Tell us about this.
Well, it's a pretty powerful quote. Goethe is an 18th century German philosopher, and our family loves him. We think he's amazing. And he says that until you commit to things, you hesitate and you're not effective. But the minute you do commit, he says 3 things are going to happen for you. He says that all of the universe, providence or God, whatever you want to call it, all things are going to start coming to you. He says that money will come, material assistance, meetings, or in other words, the people, or unforeseen incidents, or how are you going to do this? And that's exactly what happened because I committed to get this machine even before I had all my questions answered, and certainly we did not have $4,000. And so Eli helped me fill out the paperwork, and then we just let it sit there for a minute while we thought about it, and then the idea came to me. So we believe a good way for you to make a commitment is to just go ahead and fill out the paperwork. And so in just a minute here, Dr. Paul's going to show us where to get the paperwork. You don't necessarily have to have the money. Most people today don't. Most people do not have $4,000. Now, I remember saying to Doug, this is America, and we're 50 beep years old, and we don't have $4,000. I said, we must get to work right now and change that situation. We've got an opportunity here, and this is a chance for us to change so that we never are stuck in that horrible place again. So anyway, let's look at where to get the paperwork. Go ahead and fill it out. That's a form of commitment. Announce to the universe. Say, hey, I'm going to get this machine. And then imagine, picture in your mind what it would be like to have that machine in your home. And picture yourself drinking the water fresh every day. It makes a huge difference to have it fresh. And imagine yourself sharing it with your friends. Dr. Paul, where did they get the forms to?
And I wanted to show them, and if you're with the person who invited you, who is a distributor, you can get the forms in the distributor area at enagic.com. But if you're not, we've made these forms available just for the purpose of this. If you go to our website, kangenlibrary.com, which is pretty much open to anybody who wants to come along, we put the paperwork here. It's interesting, when I had dental practices, I had to have attorneys and lease property and lease equipment and blah, blah, blah. And this is nothing more than what we said before. Literally order the form, order the product. And now you have the tax benefits. So here's the first piece of paper that we had on Kangen Library that anybody can get to. There's nothing secret about it. Look at it. Here you fill in where you want them to send the processor and your thank you check. Tell them who referred you. We call that a sponsor. And leave this part blank. We're not asking you to whip out your credit card right now. If you feel like that, then do. But make a commitment to yourself. Skip that part about how you'll pay for it, and things will come to you. Assign the thing now to yourself. This is a commitment to yourself. The only other things that Mr. Oshiro asked for, he wants you to know that there's a return policy, and so he asks you to sign it, knows that you've seen it, and then he says, you know what, we need to do things so that the IRS knows that you're self-employed. And so you can literally put in a W-9, and all that gets you all those tax benefits. Remember what Donald Trump and Sam Walton said, that's the first thing you do in the creation of wealth is get your taxes lowered to the lowest legal limit. And so here's something where you can buy a healthy, consumer product and become a business just by the purchase. Talk about a benefit. So we've talked long enough tonight. It's 10 past the hour. So excuse me with the cough there. And thank you for being with us tonight. Make a commitment to yourself. Talk to the people who invited you on this call. We're grateful to have such an incredible cause to promote and literally has given us the balance in our lives. We love it. So, Tony, tell us the last thing. I know you want to tell us a little bit of something that affected you with that.
We've shared some really amazing information here tonight, but you cannot deny the water. We've got so much. You've seen it. You've been empowered tonight by the knowledge that Dr. Paul has given you, and it is life-changing. It's not just a little cliche. It is life-changing. And now I want to also tell you, with 350 million people out there across the United States, to each of you on the line, think that you could find 10 people that drink water, just 10. And do you think each of them can find 10 people that drink water? I know you can. And this is the same type of thing that Doug said to me as we were checking out the business. If you are looking for some serious financial blessings in your life, 10 people who know 10 people will bring to you between $60,000 and $120,000. And you can do that just as fast as you want or as slow as you want. And so Enagic has the product, we've got the company, we've got the integrity. And that's what Doug and I were looking for, integrity, integrity, integrity. The opportunity for us to work and be entrepreneurs and give it our all and then be rewarded beautifully. And that's what we have here. And we're so delighted to have each of you on the call tonight. And Dr. Paul, you did a great job. We really appreciate your time and all that you've done for us. Thank you, Dr. Paul. Thank you, everybody.
You're welcome. Thank you, everybody. And for those, almost every one of you stayed with us past the hour here, 12 minutes. So we apologize for the just excitement that we have about this, and makes me talk too much. So thank you. Have a great night, and we will see you tomorrow night with your guests. If you care about them and you want them to know this info, just bring them back. Okay? Good night, everybody.
All right. See you tomorrow. Good night, everybody.